Best thing that ever happened to me was coming to America. I mean that honestly, unapologetically. Once I landed in America with my mother.
For decades, fans have dreamed of seeing the original Kiss lineup back together. The face paint, the fire, the spectacle that defined an era. But in 2024, Gene Simmons shattered that dream with just a few blunt words. "We've offered him chances, but Ace won't change." It was the clearest, most unfiltered statement Simmons had ever made about guitarist Ace Frehley. And it confirmed what many feared. A full Kiss reunion will never happen. Why is Simmons so certain? And what happened behind the scenes to make him close the door for good? When Kiss formed in New York City in 1973, the lineup of Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley seemed unstoppable. They weren't just a band, they were an image, a brand, and a cultural phenomenon. With their elaborate stage makeup, pyrotechnics, and theatrical performances, Kiss became one of the most recognizable acts in the world. Simmons, the Demon, and Frehley, the Spaceman, were key to that success. Ace's guitar style, raw, melodic, and full of swagger, helped define Kiss's sound on classic albums like Destroyer in 1976 and Love Gun in 1977. Offstage, the four members shared the wild lifestyle that came with rock superstardom, endless touring, fame, and excess. But even during Kiss's meteoric rise, there were warning signs. Frehley's relationship with Simmons and Stanley began to fray as his substance abuse issues grew. His reputation for unpredictability, missed rehearsals, and all-night partying clashed with Simmons' disciplined, business-minded approach. By 1982, after the Creatures of the Night sessions, Ace Frehley left the band. Officially, the split was over creative differences. But insiders knew the real story was far more personal, a mix of lifestyle clashes and broken trust. For fans, the split was heartbreaking. For Simmons, it was the beginning of a decades-long frustration that even nostalgia tours couldn't fully heal. In 1996, Kiss shocked the world by announcing the original lineup was reuniting for a massive world tour. The spectacle was everything fans hoped for. The makeup was back, the classic songs were played, and ticket sales broke records. For a while, it seemed like old wounds had healed. Simmons and Frehley shared the stage, smiling in interviews and talking about the magic of being back together. But behind the scenes, the same issues that drove them apart in the 80s began to resurface. Frehley's reliability became a concern once again. Simmons and Stanley were committed to strict schedules and business discipline, while Frehley struggled to meet those expectations. By 2002, Frehley left Kiss for the second time. Simmons remained diplomatic in public, but insiders say the parting was far from friendly. Over the years, the band brought in replacements to fill the spaceman role. But the dream of the original four returning never fully went away for the fans. That dream, however, would run into a wall in 2024 when Simmons decided to speak with uncharacteristic bluntness about why it will never happen again. From the moment Ace Frehley left Kiss in 2002, the calls for a reunion never stopped. Fans filled message boards, social media threads, and concert parking lots with theories about when the Classic Four would share the stage again. Promoters saw dollar signs. Anniversary tours, farewell tours, and one-off stadium events were floated year after year. The financial potential was staggering. Reunion shows in the 1990s had pulled in millions, and industry insiders estimated that another run with the original lineup could rival the biggest tours in rock history. Even within Kiss, the possibility was never completely off the table. Simmons and Stanley kept their responses intentionally vague in interviews, often saying things like, "Never say never," or "anything's possible." Those small comments kept hope alive. But behind closed doors, the situation was far more complicated. While Simmons was known for his business acumen and willingness to seize an opportunity, he also carried decades of frustration over what he saw as Frehley's unreliability. For Gene, it wasn't just about selling tickets, it was about maintaining the band's professional standards. The Kiss brand, in his mind, depended on discipline, punctuality, and consistency. And that was where the biggest conflict with Ace lay. By 2024, after years of rumors and endless speculation, Simmons decided it was time to put the reunion question to rest, permanently. In early 2024, during an interview with a rock radio station, Gene Simmons was asked the inevitable question, would Kiss ever reunite with Ace Frehley? This time there was no vague answer, no diplomatic dodge. Simmons replied bluntly, "We've offered him chances, but Ace won't change." The interviewer pressed for details, and Simmons didn't hold back. He acknowledged that past substance issues, missed commitments, and personal drama had made it impossible to work with Frehley in a professional capacity. He added, "Even for money, it's not worth it. I love the guy, but you can't run a band on maybes." For longtime fans, it was a shock. While tensions between Simmons and Frehley were no secret, hearing Simmons state outright that a reunion would never happen, and explaining why, confirmed what many had suspected for years. The comments ignited headlines across music outlets. Some praised Simmons for being honest. Others criticized him for airing the band's private issues so openly. But one thing was certain, the dream of a final original lineup Kiss show had just been extinguished. The moment Gene Simmons' comments hit the airwaves, the Kiss fan community erupted. On social media, longtime followers of the band split into two camps. Some applauded Simmons for finally speaking plainly, saying it was time to end the speculation and accept that the past was the past. Others accused him of disrespecting Ace Frehley, arguing that the spaceman had been essential to Kiss's golden years and deserved one last curtain call. Music blogs and rock magazines ran with the story. Classic Rock called it the final nail in the reunion coffin, while Rolling Stone published a piece analyzing the decades-long tension between the two men. Even other musicians weighed in, some siding with Simmons' business-first approach, others championing the idea of burying the hatchet for the sake of the fans. Promoters, too, took notice. For years, they had banked on the possibility of cashing in on the nostalgia of a full reunion. Simmons' public refusal meant those plans were effectively dead. The industry understood what many fans struggled to accept. When Gene Simmons says, "never," he means it. Still, amid the shock and disappointment, there was also a sense of closure. After decades of vague answers and half-promises, the truth, however harsh, was finally out in the open. The fractured relationship between Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley has now become a defining part of the Kiss story. While the band's legacy is secure, over 100 million albums sold, countless sold-out tours, and a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the absence of a final, full lineup reunion is a missing chapter that fans will always talk about. For Simmons, protecting the Kiss brand has always outweighed sentimentality. He has often said the band is bigger than any individual member, even himself. That philosophy has kept Kiss a powerhouse for decades, but it has also meant hard lines when members don't meet his standards. Ace Frehley, meanwhile, has continued to tour and release solo albums, often playing Kiss classics to loyal crowds. While he occasionally fires back at Simmons in interviews, he has also expressed gratitude for the time they did share on stage. In the end, the story of Kiss without Ace is a story about two men whose chemistry created magic in the 1970s, but whose differences became too great to overcome. Simmons' 2024 statement simply put into words what had been true for years. That magic, at least in its original form, is gone for good. By 2024, Gene Simmons had been answering the Ace Frehley question for nearly half a century. His final definitive statement closed that chapter, not just for him, but for Kiss as a whole. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.